Alright, should be streaming about now, I guess. Pretty much. Alright, so, yeah, mostly comments I'm going to respond to, so, but I will say, for future reference, in the descriptions of this video, I'm no longer going to put links to my videos on the website, and instead I will put links to time codes for all the instances where I explain to the brozo why his experiments are garbage. Because he apparently pays zero attention to all the counter arguments and keeps arguing that his experiments have some sort of value. Yeah, when they don't. When he's demonstrated he doesn't care about the truth. Let's understand he's got a video up where my prediction was 12, his prediction was 16, and he got the answer of 14, and he declared victory. Now, clearly that's not somebody who's unbiased. And it clearly shows that you can't trust his experiments. That, he didn't get any answer. He got a noise is what he got. And all his experiments are, in some way or other, noise. Now, some of these principles I've explained repeatedly. The one about how friction isn't fair, that friction changes depending on your weight and your velocity. That is, friction caused by gravitational pressure on the Earth. The faster you go, the less you lose to friction. Just a fact. It can be demonstrated in lots of ways, and it goes all the way back to Galileo and his ramps. Now, I explained all that. I shouldn't have to re-explain why doing tests for how much energy something has based on how far it travels in friction isn't a valid test. It's on its face crap. Okay? Garbage, nonsense, useless, and shouldn't be done. So you have to come up with some other way to measure something's energy than how far it travels in gravitational friction, because friction is prejudice against weight and slowness. Alright, so we're going to read some of these stupid comments. So, Toady, I suppose innocently enough, posted some comment saying, hello, this is who I am. I don't want any trouble with you jackasses. Please, try to be adults. Something like that. And of course it just incited a bunch of comments that are just rag after rag after lie after rag of crap. And then even one of those by Toady I consider to be a little ragged. So I'll read that one. And then I'll go from there to the absolute crap, this stupid brozo types. And others, of course, but yes, it's sort of a waste of time. But this is the opposition in the in this debate. This is what they're producing. Okay, they're not producing any videos that have any theory in them. They don't explain how anything works. Okay, they produce experiments that clearly violate conservation of momentum, and provide no explanation for why they aren't, going up to conventional physics and telling conventional physics you shouldn't keep talking about the law of conservation when it's not really a law. It's just such hypocrisy and duplicity, and on its face, why should I have to debunk that one? Okay, they do an experiment and claim they violated, that they actually do overtly violate conservation of momentum, and it's somehow my job. I have to prove everybody to be an asshole on this planet. I have to walk up to every asshole who says something that's stupid and prove them wrong. Somewhere somebody else ought to jump in. Okay. Not my job, fuckers. Anyway. So he said, thanks for the reply, Stephen. So, frankly, he is... I could direct you, Toady, to the videos where Stephen's comments about you are... They're attacking your sexuality, okay? Making all kinds of bizarre references to how you're defective as a human being. And you're doing this thanks for the reply, Stephen thing? Anyway. I haven't looked at the bowling ball type setup. There's no bowling ball type setup, okay? So let's not pretend Stephen Bro did anything like a bowling ball type setup. But will, as it might be reasonably easy to try. I don't even know why you imagine it to be easy to try and how the results could be anything but subjective crap. Obviously, you can knock a pin down with a little tiny bit of energy or a lot of energy. So if you arrange the pins right, yeah, you can knock down a whole bunch of pins. Shit. Why don't we use crackers? Let's bang things into crackers in our garages and call it science. Well, anyway, I do agree that I assume engineers have decided on optimum values for things because, of course, they do. You know, the bowling argument really doesn't have anything to do with engineers. It just has to do with professionals always choose a heavier ball than a lighter ball, and it seems kind of logical that if lighter balls, like even a 15 pound or 14 or 13, has some percentage, 10%, 20%, 30% more energy, that they would figure out a way to maximize and take advantage of that. Yes, they could go all the way to an 8-pound ball where they have twice the energy. It seems something somebody would have figured out how to take advantage of. You knock down twice as many pins. The pin you hit goes twice as fast. I mean, duh. Okay, never mind. I mean, if you don't get that simple part of the argument, there's almost no point. But anyway, the tape deck seems to be a good test. I don't even know why spinning a tape deck would be a good test of anything. I mean, even the whole electric motor thing has these defects in that we know electric motors get hot. You know, so first you have to establish that electric motors are even capable of doing these, put in half the energy and get half or any kind of realistic number of spins out. But anyway, never mind. Especially using asymmetric loads on the reels. Very surprised that didn't use them up faster. I mean, vibrator batteries die faster than electric shavers. I don't know why he would know this, but whatever. Because they have a load that is asymmetric on them. I don't know if that's the only reason. I'm just arguing. I think the depth of the oscillation is different, but whatever. Not that I'm an expert on either, I hasten to add. Well, so you seem like you know what you're saying. You said it. So you must have some source. But anyway, look, I want to avoid being some person in the middle. Well, I'll declare you not in the middle now, okay? Because, yeah, what you're going to say here is really sort of pisses me off. And so frankly, you're not very close to my end at the moment. So you can just do whatever the fuck you want and mind your own business and stay out of my face, frankly. Because you said Gary, between you and Gary. I think it is sort of your business. I've sort of preambled here that this Brozo character, like I said, he's going to make a nice comment to this Woto guy who he knows is Farley. And this is a guy who has posted my family, my house, okay, has done everything he can to invade my private life, all right, and play with it like it's his toy. And this is a fucker, this asshole sits there and gives free license to say whatever the fuck he wants, all right? They've repeatedly doxed me, these people, all right? And you want to sit there and say, well, I want to avoid being a person in the middle. You really can't do that. Okay, it's really not possible. All right. So I will not comment on that. But I think that, so he does comment on it. So he won't comment on it, but he does comment on it. And a whole litany of trash talk about me. Okay, absolute ad hominem crap. Buckets and buckets of it. And he sticks himself right in the fucking middle of it and then says, I'm just an innocent bystander. Yeah, sure. Come on. I mean, so you want to separate yourself from me, well, fine, okay? But don't do it this way, all right? Prove your independence with some other badge you're going to wear than oh, I'll take some cheap shots too. Fuck you. All right, anyway. But I think that putting all history aside, why should anyone have to do that? Why should I put the history, the years of abuse I have taken from this stinking, lousy fucking weasel? Go read the titles of his fucking videos, you moron. Go read the titles of his fucking videos. And then go watch some of them, you fuckhead. They're steaming piles of obnoxious crap. God damn it. Anyway, it is fair to ask these questions. Okay, so he's talking, who knows about what questions he means. Anyway, certainly the evidence is not super forthcoming. It doesn't exist, okay? We've all gone looking for it. It doesn't fucking exist. And the best we can find is, you know, a Mythbusters experiment here or some other experiment there. You have already been part of this, okay? I showed the Professor Lewin video and I pointed out a couple of obvious defects. Well, I found even more since those conversations we had, and I think I've absolutely proven there's no way the other cart could be twice as heavy. It's pretty much a proven fact he had to fake the fucking experiment. That should be the title here for you. That should be the big takeaway. Why does an MIT professor have to cheat to make the results come out the way he wants? Why, if it's such a physical fact of the universe, if it's so true, why does he have to cheat to do it? And then why isn't there any experimental evidence for any of this stuff? Why don't we have a single example of kinetic energy doing any work in the real world? I shouldn't have to make these arguments to you again. The evidence is not super forthcoming. You know it's a lot worse than not super forthcoming. It doesn't exist. Okay? And as both of you can agree, it is also not easy to test. Well, and yeah, in your basement, yeah, I can't do the Eddington experiment. Guess what? I'm not going to make a 12-foot telescope in my fucking corner of a basement. So yeah, there's a lot of these tests. They should be done well. That's why I have solicited experts, okay? Applied Science. I've emailed him 3 fucking times. You know, these different channels. I mean, right now in conversations with 5 Minute, one of those, whatever, physics or yeah, something like that. I mean, it's the same guy who runs like 4 channels. But anyway, I'm trying to negotiate somebody who, somebody who has the facilities to do the experiment right. Like even the Mythbusters, for example. Here, they have a whole lab, they have staff, they have all those people, and they still did the experiment kind of shitty. It wasn't very well thought out in some ways. So yeah, all of it, to do it well, takes some industry. So you're conceding that. Yes, you putting a fucking plastic ruler on top of a pencil is really not going to do it. Okay, we have to do a little better than that. And here's what, frankly, triggered me to say, come on, what the fuck is this shit? Alright, that's why I'm keen to get Gary to try to experiment. Why? Why the fuck should Gary do that? Gary has a unification theory he's working on. He's talking about all kinds of other subjects. Got a simulation. Got all kinds of things to work on. Alright, and the fact is Gary has done fucking experiments. Gary built a little interferometer in his fucking porch. And I did do the pendulum thing. And I did do the launching little ball thing. Alright, but I have explained repeatedly, I don't have the resources here. I don't have a lab. I don't have any space to work in. I mean, fuck you. And I've made this point over and over again. This isn't, I'm not making these physics arguments because I want to do experiments. And again, I shouldn't have to prove their Jesus doesn't exist. They should have to prove their fucking theory. Why the fuck should I have to disprove their theory? Shouldn't they prove it first? Fuck. And then this is the part. As I feel, maybe try thinking. Well, let's go with it. As I feel he is reluctant. I've offered fucking goddamn money. So if somebody can do a decent experiment showing, okay, the fact that you can make a 5-ton train going 10 miles an hour out of a 10-ton train going 5 miles an hour, do the inverse mass to velocity ratio and basically prove the theory can't be true because that would be a free energy machine. So if somebody could actually do the experiment, proving that, I've offered $500. Okay, let's get the experiment done. Let's get it done well with nice machine parts, nice everything done well. That's what I've advocated for. I'm not reluctant, you cunt. What a pile of shit. Fuck. I've been begging for the fucking experiment to be done. Alright, anyway. I feel he is reluctant to test the ideas. God, fuck you. I mean, that just pisses me off. I mean, it's just so fucking obnoxious. Where the fuck did you get that impression from? Alright. And anyone interested in truth. So now I'm not interested in the truth because I don't personally think I'm the best person to do these fucking experiments, and I have, in my opinion, legitimate distractions. Have you debunked any of Brozo's experiments? Have you gone to the trouble to debunk anything? Have you gone out and found the Professor Lewin video? No. Have you done anything? And you're going to tell me I haven't done enough? Fuck you! Alright, where did you explain how photons work? When did you figure out which way the polarizers are and whether or not the phase is being changed or do any of this shit? You didn't do any of this shit. Fucker. Alright. And anyone interested in the truth is also interested in testing. I say it all the time. The whole point is where is the conventional theory tested? Will they allow it to be tested? Or will they cheat? Yeah, exactly. Fuck you. I mean, really, fuck you. Okay. I am absolutely not taking sides. Well, fuck you. You might as well. Maybe, you're not getting in my boat. Here, and I will happily critique yours. Well, let's see you do it, okay? Every one of his fucking goddamn experiments has a fundamental flaw, and you haven't pointed out any of them yet. Alright? When did you do the research with the Galileo thing and the ramps and figure out that friction isn't the same? Huh? Did you do that? Or did I do that? Oh, that's right, I did that. Fucker. I mean, this is just... Did you think about the clay experiment? You're dropping round things into clay. I'll explain that one on the fucking board. Did you do the process it takes to think about something and why it's happening? And then dissect what the flaw in their reasoning is? Did you do that? No, I did it. Happy to critique yours, his, or anyone else's tests. So let's get a bunch of amateurs to let's bang fucking matchbook cars into fucking goddamn crackers. Yeah, that's just brilliant fucking science. That'll do it. Yeah, that'll convince everybody. God damn. What a pile of shit. Final point, I don't think the cart looked dirty. Well, everything in his house is filthy, but okay, go ahead. You're telling me that his experiments look really clean and neat. Yeah, well then you're a lunatic. Alright. There's sticky crap, goo, poop, everything, all kinds of shit on everything. You could barely see through his camera. Oh, fuck. But what a pile of shit. Alright. So let's do the clay experiment. So this is, Brozo's still talking about these stupid fucking clay experiments. This is from the 1700s, where apparently no one was smart enough to point out the obvious defect in the reasoning they were applying. So I have to do it again, because everybody else is too fucking stupid. Alright, so you're trying to measure something's energy. So you have a clay. Alright, so you think, well, it's a pretty even substance, it mushes fairly evenly, shouldn't be a big deal. Alright, and so you're going to drop something into the clay and you're going to say, well, theoretically, how far does it penetrate the clay would be a representation of its energy. Now, the first thing you're going to say to yourself, well, let's figure out the dynamics of what it really has to do, right? I mean, realistically, when something penetrates the clay, what does it have to do? Well, it has to push the clay out of the way. And, so first things first, you'd say, well, the energy is coming this way. That's the momentum is moving this way. The kinetic energy, if it had a vector, it's a poor little scalar. It doesn't know which way it's going. But let's just assume for the sake of argument that the kinetic energy knows which way it's going. So what's going to happen? The clay molecules are going to move in these directions, right? That's going to be the idea. And just like in water, okay, I mean, clay is basically really thick water. The problem is that it's going to meet resistance, right? It's going to be compressing the clay in this direction, and it's going to, in this sense, create pressure here. This clay is going to say, I don't want to be compressed anymore. And so now the compression has to go this way. And let's say the clay is in a package or a container. Well, then you could figure out that, like water waves, the clay is finally going to have to go this way. It's the only place it can displace the volume. So in Brosseau's experiment, I believe the clay was not in the container, so it could freely expand a little bit. But you can understand that that's going to be the idea, right? The physics involved is sort of like dropping something in water. The water will kind of quickly compress. It's an uncompressible substance. It will meet the pressure, let's put it that way, and it will start moving the water in these directions, and moving in those directions, the same thing happens. It runs into thicker water, so to speak, and it will make a wave eventually. And then the wave will be pushed down by gravity, and the process will be repeated, and the whole thing will move forward. Now, I'm not going to explain water waves. I've already done that in a video. Has somebody else done it? No, nobody else done it. But anyway, all right, so that's basically the theory. Now, the Mythbusters just compress clay, between two objects. And so, obviously, the clay was always quite free to go this way without any encumbrance. So, the pressure the clay was, as long as it was still clay between the two objects, you could understand that the clay had a free ride going, squishing out. So the compression of the clay was really just squirting the clay out the sides. All right, so Brosseau, so in the 1700s, a guy did some experiments, and these were the show experiments that Madame Chartelet, who had, big wealth, and so she could publish. And she published in a very wealthy crowd of people. Were all interested in this little rich people science they were doing in these periods of time. Well, anyway, so this guy did this experiment with clay, and she clung to it. Now, she tried to repeat it with all kinds of other experiments, dropping wood into water and then dropping objects into sand to try to verify it with another experiment. But none of those worked out very well. So she was sort of just stuck with this. So the idea was he dropped round balls, okay? Now, it really doesn't matter what they're made out of. One, different versions of the history say one thing or the other, but it doesn't really matter. And the idea is, I guess I can erase that. Volume's on, right? Yeah, I should check. But I won't. Alright, so let's erase that too. Alright, so we're going to use same masses, and we're going to drop them from different heights. Alright, and this will be 4 times the height, which equals, based on the Galilean ratios, this will drop at twice the amount of time. Okay, so even though it's 4 times the height, it's only twice the time. When it hits, I've done that experiment too. See, have you done the experiment? You take a scale and you drop something on the scale and you see how much it weighs. And then you drop it from 4 times higher and you see how much it weighs. And you find out it always weighs twice as much. Always weighs twice as much. Now, should we use this experiment? Should I videotape my little scale and we'll call that proof forever in physics? So anytime somebody wants to see the proof that 4 times the height equals twice the weight, we'll just show Gary's fucking little scale video, because that's the only proof we need. We don't need better experiments than that, do we? Hell no. Fuck. Shit. Twice the velocity. I mean, how many times do I have to say this shit to see somebody make a response? Toady, could you make a response and explain how twice the time and twice the velocity and twice the weight could possibly equal 4 times the energy? Is there some way you could explain how that could ever be true? That could ever be logical? I mean, seeing as we have spring laws that that they actually do this experiment where they put a weight on the spring. Okay, so you put 1 kilogram on the spring, and then you put 2 kilograms on the spring. Guess what? It expands exactly twice as much. Exactly twice as much. Okay, that's twice the weight. Okay, so twice the weight equals twice the expansion. It doesn't equal 4 times the expansion. So if this is only creating twice the weight, how can it fucking possibly be 4 times the energy? But anyway, sticking with the clay. So he's dropping round objects into the clay, right? And they describe the experiment incorrectly. That's right. 90% of references to these experiments that were critical to this 1/2 mv. It was the living force mv squared. It didn't have a half back then. Okay, so vital to proving it was this experiment. All right, and in describing the historical record, they do it inaccurately because Grandezis and whatever his name was, clearly makes the point that he was measuring the volume of the displacement. So he was measuring how much fluid, so to speak, would fit inside the dent made by the objects. So the historical record talks about just how far it goes down, and how far it goes down isn't the same as the volume thing. All right, so, but it's not a huge, I don't know how much of a difference it is, frankly, but obviously you can understand that as things go deeper, that gets wider. That's what round things are doing. They're getting wider as they go deeper. All right, so I have pointed out, okay, unlike anybody else, anybody in the 1700s couldn't figure it out, I guess. Although we don't get to see all the counter arguments that were made, right? We only see the winners. The winners are the only one who get recorded by history. The losers don't. So maybe there was lots of people who made this simple argument and said, this is all fallacious, this is garbage. Okay, Galileo already explained this 4 times thing. Okay, that in the same time that this drops just 1 unit in gravity, in the same amount of time it does this whole giant thing in the gravity, right? So if you can kind of bend your brain a little bit to understand that, well, gravity is a time-dependent force. I mean, I've only explained that 4 million times. You fly by something with gravity, the faster you fly by, the less you're bent by the gravity, because obviously it's a time-dependent force. But anyway, so you do this experiment, and what happened is that, yes, you got 4 times the displacement because it's a round object. That's why, right? So it's really only twice the energy, all right? But it looks like it's 4 times because it's 4 times the displacement. And so this is back to sort of the friction argument, right? You roll the ball with twice the velocity, and it goes 4 times the distance because it's losing less to gravity. Well, in this case, what's the difference between these 2 objects? Well, if you were to draw the object a different way, so I could draw a circle, and you recognized, well, which way is the surface pointing, right? This surface was pointing down. This surface is pointing this way. This surface is pointing this way. This surface is pointing this way. You can get the idea as you go around the circle, the portion that's going this way versus the portion going that way, that's changing as you turn. So you're pushing all the energy this way here and all the energy this way here, right? And only a small component in this direction, and this one has only a small component in this direction, right? So that's the big huge difference. So the deeper you go into the clay, the more you're pushing sideways, right? So this is bigger because a higher percentage of the travel time was spent pushing the clay sideways instead of down, where this one was spending a lot more time. All of the time it was falling, it was pushing into the clay. The whole time it was pushing into the clay, it only got this portion of the circle. It didn't get to enjoy this side of the circle. It only had this side. So it was doing mostly flat pushing, where this is doing pointy pushing. So it's the reason why arrows make arrows work better. Pointy thing. It's having the pointy thing, right? Because it's pushing this way Where if I used a flat surface, it's pushing down straight in, which means it has to change the direction. It has to push it sideways eventually. And then maybe even up. So obviously all that inefficiency means you're going to lose a huge amount of your energy to misdirection. A bunch of stuff is going to be going in directions that aren't getting it out of the way, that are counterproductive. And the pointier you make it, the more direct you get the clay out of your way. It's out of your way. It's out of your way. It's out of your way. Where if you're pushing flat, it's still in your way. It's still in your way. It's still in your way. You keep pushing something forward, it's in your frickin' way. Okay. And so that's why there's this difference. It's because, yeah, the slower object doesn't get to enjoy the pointiness, right? The arrow is still flat, you know, where it's going into the surface, and it doesn't get, you know, push it sideways until it goes much deeper. So the real test would be force the objects to both go into the clay past the halfway point. Then at least they've endured the same equal amount of disproportional pressure, but it would still be a slight advantage to the faster object because it still spent less time in the beginning, okay, pushing clay down. So anyway, so that's the you know, it's a simple explanation. It proves you can say, okay, so use flat things. Take nice cylinders, okay, with flat bottoms, because then both sides will have the same disadvantage. Or drop both things that are pointy. But don't do the round thing, because the round thing does change based on how far you go into the clay. It's just a fact. The real circumstances the object has to overcome are different for the two objects. The faster object gains an advantage as long as this object doesn't penetrate too deeply. And it's just a fact. All right. I hate people. Okay. Alright, so we'll see if there's any commenters. Yeah. New commenters. Then we'll come back to some of this. It's just such a pile of steaming shit. What people type. It's just terrible. Alright, live. Go there. Look at that. Lots of chatty crap. Let's see what people are saying. Okay, we gotta pop that out. First I gotta put it on live chat. Okay. Then I have to do the pop out thing. And then I have to, oh, look at that, it already popped it out for me. Isn't that great? I didn't have to do it. I guess I could make it a little bigger, but you really don't need to see this shit. I'm sorry, stuff. Alright, so let's go back to the beginning and see what we got. Empty feeling. Happy Jesus. No, I don't care about that. Colorful. I don't care about that. Just another day. Yes. Make it super large. What would happen? Miles long, maybe. What the fuck are you talking about? Alright. And what makes it worse is that his teaching others, telling the students that the real conversation of kinetic energy. I don't even know what that means, but yeah, the problem with Brozo, I mean, is it really actually saying who needs a quick release? I mean, it's the safe bet. You always make one if you can. And you really don't do any experiments that have any kind of pressure or speed involved without doing it. So these are the people Toady thinks should be doing the experiment. Agreed. It's ridiculous to ask you, must be the experimentalist. It's just ridiculous in this context. Like I said, it was 10 years ago, I would be all in. Okay? I mean, I did make an air track too. Do you remember? I made an air track. Okay. And yeah, I could see the flaws, and I said, well, this isn't even a good idea. I'm not going to perfect it because why bother? I mean, I did one just to see if it would work, and I could see all the flaws. I could see how you're engineering, there's a fundamental error in the air track in the sense that you're adding energy to the system, and it's really dangerous because the air pressure isn't necessarily perfectly even, and especially after something collides with something else things tend to move. They tend to tilt. And as soon as it would tilt, it would create extra velocity. I mean, come on, it's not that difficult to understand. Well, anyway. But yeah, so I've done my share, all right? And I'm just, look, if one thing was different in my life, I would be in. But it's a combination of things. I moved, I have way too much stuff, I live in a corner of a basement, I really just can't be bothered to move everything out of the way, change my whole fucking life. So I can nail a lever to a board and somehow rig a silly experiment out of the fucking paper clips and duct tape. Why the fuck would anybody even want to see that experiment? Anyway, fuckers. Gary, I know you're not a huge Chat GPT fan. Yes, you're right. But what I'm just saying, what is it going to do? If it could wash dishes, I'd be all for it. Okay, but did you know that even ChatGPT found your draft science papers interesting? Whatever, I don't think so. I know it's just a dumb AI, but maybe you could spin some ideas with it. What? I'm just sorry. It can't conceptually understand anything. It's just playing with words, okay? It's just predicting what's the highest probability word that follows this word. I mean, it's not thinking, you dumb fucks. It's helped me solve out some of my family complex, whatever. I can't read that. And neural network training. I don't know. Family problems and my fairly complex. Okay, it wasn't family. My fairly complex what the fuck? Whatever. Fine, I told you. For people who have specialties, for programmers, for different things, for even people who want to just fix the grammar of their statements, fine, go knock yourselves out. I'm just saying I don't see any value in it, that it's not going to in any way innovate on purpose. Okay, it's not going to have like a challenge and solve the challenge. Find the flaws in quantum mechanics. It's not going to be able to do it because it really can't compare real circumstances. It can only compare silly paragraphs in Wikipedia pages and then pick one. Anyway, so it's not as dumb as one might think. Well, whatever, just fuck all this shit. I really don't want to talk about fucking Chat GPT thingy. Ugh, so much neurology being wasted on this shit. Let's see, I can calculate the motion of heavy bodies, but not the madness of people. Isaac Newton. Yeah. So there's another good Newton quote. But again, it's so offensive that all these people say Newton said F equals ma, when what he overtly said, okay, well, first his drawing of the formula was different, but if you read what he actually said regarding the second law, he's clearly saying you want twice the action, supply twice the force. He was clearly saying the action equals the force. After losing his stock investments during a bubble. Yeah, well, whatever. He wasn't all that bad off anyway, but whatever. All joking aside, I mean, I really don't think much of Newton's second career as the Treasury Secretary, where he basically killed people, But anyway, whatever. All joking aside, Gary, I really want to see even an exclusive stream where you confront ChatGPT, whatever. I don't have a cell phone, right? You have to sign in or something. I'm not signing in. It's free, albeit the free version is slow, and you can just log in with your Google account. Well, why would I do that either? So, no, thank you, okay? Fine, whatever. You're going to wait a while because I'm just not that fucking goddamn interested. Thank you for your explanation on the clay experiment. Okay, I never understood why they used a ball instead of using a cube for the clay experiment, or even a cylinder. Okay, but yes, I mean, the fact is shape matters. We already know that from arrows and bullets and different things. We know the shape of the object makes a difference. So it seems kind of obvious to say, well, maybe it makes a difference, especially when the shape changes with the depth. So if the shape is changing as you go deeper, well, that's a really interesting problem, right? I mean, an arrow, it's not really changing much, right? I mean, the slope of the arrow is still the same. So, not much of a difference. But clearly a round object, big difference. Very flat on the bottom. Very not flat on the sides. Hey, can you unblock whatever binary bump lump? I don't know. Can I? You have to post a link to the actual channel you want. All right, unblocked. So wait till this video's over and post a comment, or post a comment on some other video with the stupid link to the fucking channel you want unblocked. Or email it, or something. I mean, I've been over this so many times. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's not that hard to follow along. YouTube does not provide any mechanism where I can just go to the blocked people and find them, okay? It's not in alphabetical order, it's not rationally ordered, and fucking most of the time when people ask me to unblock them, they're not even on the fucking list. So if you change your screen name, yeah, I can't unblock it. Alright, so that comment section wasn't worth much. Alright, so back to the brozos. Oh, God. I'm so sick of sick of this planet. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. It's covered with stupid. Alright. So this comment ahead of that comment. So he has a part 3 and a part 10 and a whatever. So there's such a pile of crap. So I want the one where he's going on and on. Yeah, look at this one's going on and on kind of a bit. Alright, so let's see what he said here. Part 3. You might say someone woke me up, blah, 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 who cares? Professional actually game competitively. Okay, so he's talking about the bowling ball argument. And so he says, falls flat on its face the minute you talk to professionals who actually play the game competitively. So where, is there any realistic possibility that Brozo has talked to any professionals? Or that there is any conversation among professionals about the kinetic energy theory? No, I don't think so. So anyway, Gary overrides their examples because he's been to a bowling alley, whoopee, so the pros must be wrong. So there's no pros making any argument on this subject. It's just a lie to say there are, okay, because they haven't. It's not out there. I would have already found it, okay? There's no references to pros talking about, well, physics says the 8-pound ball has twice the energy, but I can't make it happen. There's no pro saying that. When they explain the game of skill, not brute speed. And again, no one's arguing it's about brute speed, right? Who the fuck would care? It's about fucking twice the goddamn energy, jackass. Oh, I mean, you just, how could you measure this, right? It's like you go to the gas station and you could pay half as much for the gas across the street. What? This isn't complicated. Something is giving you twice as much for a value, and you're going to sit there and tell me there's no reason to try even to get that gas instead of the gas you're getting? I shouldn't even try the 8-pound ball or the 6-pound ball? Anyway, they are trying to achieve a very definite speed. No, they're trying to knock down 10 stinking pins. And yes, there are principles involved where you can gain slight advantages. So there's a statistical advantage at hitting the stack of pins in certain locations. So yes, but that all changes the minute you say, well, what if the ball has twice as much energy? Well, yeah, fuck that then, right? You don't need your stupid position anymore because you have twice the energy. Meaning that, say with the idea of hitting the stack head on. Okay, right at the point. Now that would usually end up producing the possibility of a 7-10 split. or leaving a 7 pin, or leaving a 10 pin. So it's very reliable in the sense you'll get rid of the other 8 pins, but it's very bad at maybe leaving the 2 worst pins it could leave. But frankly, if you have twice the energy, nah, not a problem. Not a likelihood. Alright, anyway, I think they said between 19 and 21 miles per hour. Yeah, that's only for the fact of what they're using, which is a 16-pound ball, because they have no reason to switch to an 8-pound ball because there isn't twice as much energy. So it's only validating my point, retard. But it's been ages since I heard their explanation of the technique they employ, so this is just whatever. So he's an expert, but he's not an expert, but he's an expert. But I really don't want to go into all this stuff, okay? I mean, it's all about oil on the lane, okay? And the fact that the last 10 feet is dry, so you spin a ball, and then it hits the dry spot, and the dry spot makes it go in a direction. Yes, and as I pointed out, there's angles that are really good for knocking down more pins. Well, anyway, so I'm not going to do this bowling thing. It's already enough of it already. Let's see what he says here. His argument, it uses gravity and the mechanics. Okay, let's see what this is. And guess what? Half the mass, twice the speed, one knocked down, considerably more bottles. So he says he has an experiment where he claims he knocked down obviously more objects with his magical extra kinetic energy. And these were objects he moved by banging something falling in gravity. So he doubled the velocity by just doubling the height of the weight, not 4 times the height of the weight. So lots of flaws in his stupid experiments. I use gravity as the mechanics to make them go the required speed. You never measured their speed. You didn't measure their speed, retard. Okay. What possible difference could it make, so long as the speeds were accurate? Were they accurate? I don't think they were accurate. Alright, anyway. So this is number 2. Let's see what this is. Think how strong bowler's arms would have to be to throw the half-mass ball twice the speed. So this is how he thinks. He actually thinks, okay, that you would have to be stronger to throw something twice as fast that's twice as light. That's what he thinks. So if I made a shot put half as light, it's his argument that nobody could throw it twice as far. They'd have to have super muscles or something. You know, they'd have to be exceptional in some way. They'd have to not be, you know, there'd be nobody capable of doing it. It's basically what he's saying. They'd only be able to throw the half as light shot put, okay, 0.4 faster or further. That's his fucking theory. So he believes in breaking conservation of momentum, because that's what that does, frankly, right? I think we can all understand you're breaking conservation of momentum. You know, if you claim the half-mass object doesn't go twice the speed. I mean, Professor Lewin even said it. So why is he get away with making an argument this stupid, where he's claiming conventional physics doesn't know what it's talking about? Alright. If MV applied, then it would require an extra effort. So you saying it, why don't you say that to Professor Lewin? Why don't you say it to all the other, I think, physicists who would tell you, yes, you can throw a half as massive object twice as fast. You don't need super muscles for that. Obviously, we have a limit to how fast we can throw things, period, just because of the mechanics of our arm. We can't throw our hand any faster than like 90 miles an hour. You know, we can't even throw our hand any faster than that. Alright. And we've already established that they don't want to do that anyway, because Gary's describing some other cruder game he imagines just because he, I don't know what this is, schnots his argument such as it is. Whatever that fucking even means. Shouts, I guess is what he's saying. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm talking about bowling. I sit there and I did actually point out exactly how the momentum is transferred by the balls. I pointed out, I showed how it works out in the chart, you know. So, alright, so we'll call this we'll make this a brozo edit. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of brozosian argumentation. And it's just about, how momentum works. You can't transfer it any other way. So Brozo's saying that the object, it doesn't matter what its momentum is, all it matters is what its kinetic energy is. Okay, and so you don't have to conserve momentum, and that somehow you can do these magical experiments. And so, the idea of bowling ball and bowling pin, right? So what's going to happen, it's not a very good pin, but who cares? You roll the ball into the pin, and what's going to happen? The two things are going to connect, and the pin is going to leave with momentum, mv. It's going to have its mass, and it's going to get a velocity. So if I hit it with a 16 mile per hour, okay, or an 8 mile an hour heavier ball, bigger one, let's just say, well, heavier. Let's just understand bigger is heavier. Okay, so it's twice the mass, only going 8 pounds. So it's the same momentum. So what happens when this ball hits the pin? The pin's going to leave at 16 miles per hour, right? And the ball is going to give away some of its momentum, so it's now only going to be traveling, say, 14.7 miles per hour. So the next pin it hits, the best it can do is 14.7 times the mass, right? So it's going to be 14.7, and now the ball is going to be down to, whatever, 12.8 or something like that. Like I said, I did this more exactly. And so then you measure the 8-pound ball, I mean the 8 mile per hour heavy ball, twice as heavy ball, hits the pin. It can only give 8 miles an hour. It gives half the energy to the pin. It'll come out, half because the pins have the same mass, right? So in this example, the pins have the same mass. So it's going to give away half as much momentum to the pin. The pin's going to leave with half the momentum. All right, and so what you end up with when you do this correctly is you end up with a chart. All right, and the chart will basically, this is the 8-pound ball. It comes into the chart and it goes down and then peters out. And the 16-pound ball is going to do, something more like this. All right, so this volume, where the 8-pound ball was giving away more energy, okay, is going to end up equaling this volume, where the 16-pound ball is going to have more energy after it's hit a few pins, and then it's going to equal out. But that's basically the idea. This volume is going to equal this volume, and it's all going to be the same thing. There's not going to be any extra energy anywhere, because where could it possibly be? It can't produce any extra energy because its velocity is a set thing. It can't make the pin leave at 32 miles per hour. How could it possibly make twice the energy? Because it can't really make twice the momentum. If it can't make twice the momentum, how can it make twice the energy? It's just like the stupid example, again, where they tell you that, you take a 5-ton train and then you crash it into another 5-ton train, and then you end up with a 10-ton train going twice the speed, and, where the hell is that? I guess it's down there. You end up with a 10-ton train going twice the speed, and their argument is this lost 1/2 of the kinetic energy, and they argue that there was a bunch of bent things and sparks and all kinds of shit happen. It has exactly the same MV, it has the same momentum, and yet somehow it made sparks, it dented things, it blew things up, it causes fires, it does all kinds of shit. So it did all kinds of work, but didn't use any momentum. 0 momentum used to do a bunch of noise, sparks, dents, bangs, crashes. You people can make sense out of that? Come on. You really can't be this stupid. Alright. Let's see where I was. Let's see. He ignores multiple experiments proving that the same energy input cannot double the speed or anything even close. So obviously, yes, I ignored those experiments because I did the experiment and it came out very close. So I shot 2 masses with the same force. I shot 1 mass, and yeah, it didn't come out perfect. But I didn't do a perfect experiment because I had to do it on my floor in a basement, okay, with the materials I had available. And it was close enough, frankly. It wasn't anywhere close to 0.4. It was close to 0.8, okay, not 0.4. All right. and that it always results in half mass going 1.4. So he keeps saying this, and his own experiments don't demonstrate that. So, no. What are you going to say? Obviously, it didn't happen in his lever experiment where he pushed the pool balls. It did not leave with 1.4. The half mass did not leave with 1.4. It obviously was going really, really fast. And I'd say from just looking at it visually, clearly twice as fast. And he says at best. 1.4 at best. So even though his own experiments don't show that, that is, he has another experiment where 1.4 would have produced the number 16, and his experiment got the number 14, and my prediction was the number 12. So where's your at best there? It didn't work. You know, that's where he's measuring. He really establishes the velocity, well, sort of, in the middle of the voyage he establishes the velocity. So he measures how fast they're going here, and then he lets them travel a while before they actually hit the target. So who knows how fast they were going when they actually got to the target. But regardless, he didn't get the right answer. All right. Barring a mistake like me accidentally letting my half pool ball skid. So I already read this, right? Yeah, I already did this part. I don't know how I could have done this part already, though. Well, anyway, but no, we'll read it. All right, skid along faster than it should have done, causing an erroneous 1.69 result. Since corrected, so we're going to see this corrected. Will upload soon. Yes, let's see this, because you're going to see what you're going to see. I'll say it again. Is him cheat, okay? Because the experiment he did really wasn't bad. I mean, he had a quick release. The spring thing looked pretty consistent. Didn't look like he was over compressing anything or fucking anything up. And he measured the velocities rather quickly from the launch time. So it didn't look like there was anything that was insanely flawed. And so let's see how he has to fuck it over to make the results come out the way he wants them to. Alright, she has to double the energy input to actually make it go 2x faster. Well, whatever. So yeah, I did read that. So there's some other ragged comment, but we'll just read this Farley one since we're here. I mean, there's absolutely nothing in this comment that has anything to do with anything. Like, there's no physics argument anywhere near it. Alright, Draft is like some guy who has drawn a crayon outline of a race car on a cardboard and then complains that the man won't let him race it in the real Formula One race. So I'm paying them to just produce evidence of your theory. So I'm offering $3,000, and all they have to do is show evidence. All they have to do is show it taking 4 times more fuel to go twice as fast. That's the big challenge. Okay, and so I'm expecting too much, that they would actually prove their theory. They actually have some evidence, some kind of evidence. I mean, it's amazing what these people are defending as physics, as science. They think science doesn't need to produce evidence. Okay. His arguments are based on a below 8th grade grasp of physics and math. So again, there'll be no demonstration of that. Alright, so, you know, like I said, this is all only good for in hindsight. You know, just acknowledging that human beings absolutely do suck. They have no integrity, nothing. They just talk absolute shit like this when they're absolutely wrong. Okay. He asked for evidence. Yes. That's a crime by your standards. You're not allowed to ask you to produce any evidence. Okay. But has no clue that KE is used millions of times a day. I mean, this is just an amazing sentence. That KE is used millions of times every day to operate real machines around the world. I'm asking you to just show me one. Show me KE doing real work anywhere. You know, where you can actually see the work it's produced. Show me the 5-ton train going 10 miles an hour doing more work than the 10-ton train going 5 miles an hour. Show me. F equals NA has long since been regulated to the nothing more than a middle school intro into mechanics. Yes, because they can't show any evidence. So yeah, they just talk a little bit of shit about, well, this is the new physics, And that's it. They don't, and they try to imply that Newton believed in this. They don't even make the distinction that Newton believed in momentum, mv, and he thought mv was energy. So they don't even reference that fact that Galileo, Descartes, and Newton did not agree with this bullshit energy. High school and colleges teach Lagrangian and Hamiltonian. So this is the crap used in quantum mechanics and even relativity to create all these bullshit formulas that tell you there's antiparticles. This is the crap they use to make this fake crap. So why would this be a defense? It's just funny to me that he's using that crap as a defense when that crap has created so much garbage physics. Formulae which are directly based on Ke and Pe. Well, they're really not based on whatever this notion that you can make up some fake notion that there's something called potential energy. There's just potential circumstance. You can be in a circumstance where you can collect energy. Again, if I have a boat on the side of a stream, it's kind of stupid to say my boat has potential energy because I can in fact push it into the river. Alright. Real calculations used in real machines use a Lagrangian Hamiltonian, but Draft has zero knowledge of anything beyond primary school math and physics. I have knowledge of all kinds of wacky crap, and that's why I got into this in the first place, is because I heard your silly stories, and I said, gee, those are just fables. They don't have any evidence of that. Their entanglement, the photon goes through both slits, all these lies and horse shit. We've proven it's a wave. The young drawing doesn't even match mathematically. It doesn't get the right answer. That's their physics. It's a big fat fucking lie. And this is what they do. This is how they respond. You tell them you're lying, okay? You don't have evidence. You haven't proven it. And this is how they respond. Not by providing the proof. Not by sending me a link. Is he going to post a link here to the good physics? The experiment that proves it? No. He's just going to talk shit. Like Don Quixote, blah, 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 says dragons that exist. So you're the ones who believe in the spooky action. Okay, you're the ones believing in the gremlins and the hobgoblins and the invisible dark matter. Alright, that's all your crap. And the antiparticles. Again, just a ludicrous concept. Where the hell are they? Alright, he has learned to pronounce certain words like vector. Just an amazing thing, right? Because the whole argument I've made for right from the original 10 years was about how the energy is just that simple. It's all just running in straight lines until it hits a piece of matter. Alright. But he has no clue about the concepts, which leads him to praise momentum one moment and complain in the next breath that Professor Lewin's card experiment violates conservation of momentum. It clearly could be converted into a perpetual motion or free energy machine. Clearly it can be. Now, have you provided a drawing explaining how I can't just make it circular, or how I can't make it reflective? Like, I just go, 10 ounces, 20 ounces, 40 ounces, 60 80 ounces. I just keep doubling the mass, and then I just do the reverse in the opposite direction. Have you demonstrated how it wouldn't be possible to make that machine? No. He accuses Lewin of rigging the experiment. So it's not just an accusation, okay? I provided substantial reasoning to defend that accusation. And where have any of you provided any counter argument? So Brozo, this is another Brozo moment again. So Stephen, okay, I mean, I'm not going to play it in this video. Maybe I'll save that for later. But I'll play it again. I'll play Professor Lewin's clip. I'll show you the two carts. I'll point to you to all the things that are irregular, okay, that make it impossible for a reasonable person to believe that one cart weighs twice as much. It can't possibly weigh twice as much. Will they ever counter-argue that point? So I've already done it twice, but I'll do it a third time. Which is done routinely across colleges and high schools around the world every year. And we have found the experiments are all over the place. And the one the high school teacher was doing by accident, where she wasn't taking any numbers, that one happens to actually turn out exactly inconsistent with momentum. According to him, it's a worldwide conspiracy going back decades. Well, so that's a lie, overtly. I didn't say it was a conspiracy. What I said is people are pieces of dirty, stinking, ignorant suck like you. They're all faith-based believers. They're gang members. They don't give a fuck about the truth. They don't give a fuck about science. You don't even have enough integrity to say, I wish there was better evidence. I wish in the 350 years since Leibniz, I wish they would have compiled a little bit of evidence to defend this theory. You can't even say that. You're so dishonest. All right. I myself did the card experiment in high school many years ago. Yeah. With what? Stagecoaches? Little miniature stagecoaches? I don't know. Anyway. I tried to help him once. I said, what a joke. But quickly realized that his channel is not about physics. Except every day I'm making physics arguments. So except for that part, it's not about physics. But a psychological condition which is off subject here. So this is more horseshit. I now watch him only as a clinical study on the dynamics of a brainless cult. I don't even know what that is. It's fun to watch even his supporters tiptoe with trepidation, at least one wrong word trigger the wrath of their capricious guru. Hilarious. I think everybody should have standards, okay? So I have standards for, who I'm going to call a friend and or an ally. And my standards are they don't swing their gun around recklessly and they don't do certain things, and they don't piss on my back and say it's raining. Yeah. So, yeah, I have standards. Sorry if they're just too high for you people to meet any of them. Alright, so, we don't want to face another, here's the whole clay thing down here, so we'll do the clay thing, because that ought to be funny. In the context of the fact that I have already explained it multiple times, why your theory sucks. Because you're stupid. You don't understand anything about how things move. Again, this is a guy who claims to have some sort of degree in sparkyism, in electricity of some kind. And he really doesn't know the difference between an amp and a volt and a watt. He's really, really stupid. Alright. Let's see. I will go to this thing. Yeah, that's the one. That's the thing I'm looking for. It should be somewhere on my computer so I could find it. Alright, let's see where we left off. Oh, these people are just hardly worth my trouble, frankly. Let's see. A lot of jammer, rammer, blammer. Let's see. Thank you for... Okay, we did that. Never understood why you used ball instead of using yes. Alright. Alright, we did the unblock thing. For some reason, we're not seeing the other text in stream. Well, too bad. Yeah, it's so hard to find, honestly, in physics experiments. It's so hard to find honesty in physics experiments. Well, I never would have thought so, but the more you analyze them, it's all formula. It's all what they write. All these teachers don't know anything about this shit. They just read it in the book and they follow the book's diagram, It's just, yeah, it is pretty pathetic. Well, I mean, like I said, I watched a video where the teacher's actually talking about the collision, and he talks about it as if it was elastic, and the car's crushed. It was like, no, you can't call that elastic. Anyway, for some reason, alright, I always saw that. Alright, well, this is why DS needs to clean up a room and do an experiment. ICBF isn't the best excuse, but okay. Yeah, fuck you, that's all I'm going to say to you. You don't have any reason to obligate me to do experiments. Einstein never touched an experiment in his fucking life. Alright, I'm making physics arguments, and again, this is just one part of my physics argument, okay? My real thesis is a unification theory. And I've been hung on this little stupid issue because, frankly, if you people are too fucking stupid to get this, you're not going to get anything else because you're fucking cement-headed morons. I mean, you can't even admit, well, the fact that they're not producing any evidence, well, that doesn't mean they don't have any. What? Yeah, how stupid are you? Anyway, it's been about 5 years plus now. Come on. What does that even mean? Well, some people don't have the same luxuries. Alright, well, I'm just going to block it here, obviously. Well, that's the wrong guy. It's a different person. It's not that hard to understand. There's nothing to understand here. They don't have to prove anything. Anybody who opposes them has to prove everything. That's their standard, okay? My side doesn't have to do any work. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to show anything. We can just make up fake stories and tell them. Your side has to produce volumes and volumes of evidence and experiments and everything. I mean, you're just such obvious fucking hypocrites. All right, DS wants to be taken seriously. No, frankly, that should be a given. I'm making arguments. I don't give a shit what you think of me. I think you ought to recognize when somebody has made a fucking argument and you ought to say, oh, I think I have an obligation to explain why that's incorrect. And none of you creepy little pieces of scummy pus can draw a fucking lever and explain how it works. So I've done it about 200 times, and you can't get a single person to show up to do it once. Because you don't have any theory, you idiots. Alright, but it comes across as he's not really trying. Okay, well, I really am having enough of you. We don't know his luxuries, but okay, whatever. I don't need to account to you fuckers, okay? You're so fucking off the subject. I mean, this is just putrid. You little shitheads who produce absolutely nothing. You can't even produce an icon for your fucking channel. And you're talking about somebody else's functionality? I mean, really, fuck you. Grow a brain and then try coming back. Look at all these ragged, stupid comments this moron left. I'm just going to block them. Fuck this shit. Whatever. Fuck off. Garbage. Yes, experiments should be able to be repeated. Well, they ought to first actually do one. Yeah. God, it's just so fucking pathetic. I'm interested in learning more about your theory of unification. Well, go fucking look at the videos. Again, I mean, do I really have to do this for you? I have to take you to the channel and show you how to click on a link? There's a link that says, version 2.0, and it has a whole list of subjects with videos on those subjects. Debatephysics.com. It at least has the photons. It has a little bit about a couple of other subjects, but yeah, I'll get some more on the other stuff. The simulation I've already explained 500 times. Alright, yeah, so I'll have to do a video on the elemental stuff, the electron-proton stuff. But obviously that's the unification part, okay? That all you need... There's lots of videos where I'm talking about 2 + 2 + 2 physics. There's just, in the universe, there's just two kinds of force. Electron force, proton force. Two kinds of matter, electrons and protons. And then two kinds of interactions, where it reflects or it's absorbed. And that's it. Well, whatever. God damn it. Alright, so here we go. Let's see what he said here. Thanks, Toady. Your final words went over my head a bit. I don't think the cards look dirty. So I guess Toady was making some reference to me commenting on how disgusting Brozo's fucking... I mean, again, you're supposed to be doing a precise experiment and you can't even read his goddamn tape measure. I'm guessing Gary must have made an issue, and I missed hearing it. Well, I don't really read all this stuff. His 40-year-old drunken papa. So he's using the old, liquor bottles, cases from his, his father's wooden booze boxes. Anyway, I'm a busy bloke. People are always asking me to sort their bins out. Sort their bins out? What the fuck is that? Take kids to football. Look after their kids several hours a day. So yeah, that's the part where he's, it's very hard. He says it's rewarding and heartwarming as they love me. Oh, isn't that special? Anyway, oh God, yeah, I wouldn't let you look. He says right now I couldn't look after a gerbil. I wouldn't let you look after a gerbil. Anyway, you're right that the evidence is not super forthcoming. I was dismayed that the William Grandis and Emily de Chatelet clay experiments were impossible to find redone on YouTube, while there would be loads of other famous experiments reproduced. So I made about 6 videos in all, maybe 8, where I thought it would be worthwhile testing the claims of their results. And so yes, he has focused on a bunch of issues that don't matter, and pretended that's all he has to do. Okay. But yes, what a waste of time, because he didn't do the obvious thing that you should do first, which is analyze the experiment and see why there could be an irregularity in the outcome. But he didn't bother with any of that thinking stuff. Alright, myths spread faster than truth on the internet. So both Gary and I fell for the wildly spread myth. Well, I didn't even care, frankly, but whatever. Even included in a famous movie about Einstein, that the ball dropped from 4 times higher goes 4 times deeper. Right, when it doesn't. Okay, so it doesn't in fact go deeper, but because of the shape of the ball, again, it gets wider the further in you go. The ball gets wider. Duh. So depth is going to equal more width because of the shape of the fucking object. Alright. I mean, you have to even explain that. I had to prove that too. So obviously he didn't prove anything. I had to prove even that too for Franklin who 2 months ago claimed I wasn't true and had supposedly never been tested. Well, clearly it hasn't been done in any clinical way where they just do the experiment with round things and then do it with not round things and see if it comes out the same way. So it's not just Gary. I will argue with if anyone makes such an arrogant proclamation with the absolute worst evidence. And your evidence, so he's still again claiming his evidence is beyond criticism, which Franklin was. I still haven't uploaded that video. Yes, you still haven't uploaded a lot of your videos you're supposed to upload with all your bold claims about what you've proven, which is such a shame. It's great. I put a lot of effort into it. But the moment was lost. So somehow he thinks there's moments lost, that somehow his experiments aren't relevant. But he leaves all his old videos up, even though supposedly they're all irrelevant now. But he keeps referencing them. How peculiar that is. So see, this doesn't make any sense. He's not posting the videos because a moment was lost. It's supposed to be a science experiment. Why would there be a moment for a science experiment? Why should we all have to have just a, you have to have a special week? It's, clay smashed on forehead week or something. I mean, all the experiments, we're going to do clay smashed on our forehead experiments this week, and then next week we'll do some other kind of dopey experiment. Fuck you. Too silly. Everyone had moved on to other things and had stopped going on about it, so I let it drop. The same subject has been the subject for 2 fucking years, okay? It's just about you proving, okay, in some way the existence of this extra kinetic energy. Alright, I think you would enjoy it though. I mean, the same momentum somehow makes more energy. Okay, same for many dozens more experiments never uploaded because the moment was lost. So he says it again. So can you imagine? He does a scientific experiment and he won't publish it because the moment's lost. Like somehow it's just not meaningful. So if he proved that the gravitational constant was 8.7 instead of 9.8, he wouldn't bother publishing it because it's the wrong week for that. Every time I try to rush an experiment, oh, too pathetic. So I can publish it before it's no longer a hot topic. So where is this? Where's there any evidence of this hot topic crap? You still are ragging on about experiments you did 2 years ago and still claiming they're valid. I live to regret it for the obvious reasons that it takes a great deal of time to do the best version I can. So nobody could look at your videos and see that you took any care regarding this version thing. You weren't showing an experiment. You were creating a piece of gross and obnoxious theater. Oh, God. So back to that myth of the ball going 4x deeper. There is even misleading drawings of the ball penetrating clay, supposedly making some perfect deep hole. I think those are the guy's actual drawings, but whatever. Looks like a drawing of a mine shaft. One short one and one very deep one. It's all fantasy, but we all fell for it at first. Sorry, nobody fell for anything like that. So there was just people writing and saying it was how deep. There was no pictures of anything. So that's a pile of shit. And yes, the theatrical presentations just showed some vague notion of a bigger dent in the clay. I eventually found just two rather poor videos where at least they were not propagating that myth. So why didn't he ever link us to these? One was a school where the teacher explained it's the volume displaced, which is 4x. It wasn't videoed too well, so why didn't we see any of that? Interesting. Although he did do the math to calculate the volume, which came out within a small margin of error. And again, it's because the shape of the object requires the expansion of the circumference of the dimple. The further you go into the clay, the wider the round object gets. The other was older school kids doing it without a teacher to assist, so they made mistakes at first, but at least they too had the right idea to measure the volume displaced in depth. Anyway, once I knew the proper way to do it, so we learned from the kids, it was a breeze. Yeah, a pile of shit. I bought large lead balls. Gary argues they should be brass. I don't argue for any of that, so that's just a nonsense. Although they used to argue it makes no difference, it obviously doesn't. The point is that it was pointed out what he used. So you can, blah, blah, blah. They said lead when he used brass, but whatever, it doesn't matter. He did different other experiments. He actually crashed brass into a round hunk of clay, as pendulums. So he did more than just this dropping thing. He did lots of clay experiments. Alright, and dropping them in very controlled way into a new batch of clay bought for the purpose. It was easy to measure the volumes using a syringe and blah, blah, blah. Gary complained about temperature affecting the results and clay consistency. Yeah, I complained about those things before you did the experiment. I said these are things to consider. So I didn't complain about them unrelated to the fact that, did you consider how the clay reacts? And then I pointed out how cornstarch does exactly what clay, the opposite. It makes fast things go slow. Okay, it creates more opposition. So I'm just saying, where's your theory or where's your evidence that clay is a way to measure energy? So nobody's really produced that theory yet. So I did it again using 3 different clay consistencies, carefully drying out a batch, adding water, and leaving one as is, and ensuring harmonious mix. I don't know if we saw all those tests, but whatever. I tested temperature, of course, using a rather expensive digital thermometer able to read 1/100th of a degree. So he probably blames me for him buying that piece of shit. I couldn't have done more to make it clear. Videoing long shots for the whole experiment could be seen. So I remember you dropping the big round long things into the clay too. And slow motion footage at 120 frames. A GoPro for hours. Disruptive text were needed. What? For hours adding descriptive text. Oh yeah, forget it. Yeah, adding his blight. Alright, and graphs and some kind of documentation. I can barely remember in my weak state right now. Yes, well, I mean, all of your videos leave the same impression with me. You see 7 seconds of the actual experiment, and the rest of it's all his shenanigans. Anyway, let's see. I test the validity of using clay to measure energy by, instead of dropping from 4x higher, I made a small ball 4x heavier. Because we can all agree that, so you did something 4x heavier than fucking lead. Anyway, 4x the mass is 4x the energy in both mv and 1/2 mv squared. Obviously it depends, you know, it's all just about the fact that it's only in the gravity twice as long, so yes, it can only weigh twice as much, blah blah blah. But it's twice the mass, so twice the time and twice the mass. I guess he's dropping the 4 mass from the shorter distance. Okay, yeah, maybe that's it. Well, anyway, I don't remember him showing those experiments, so, but whatever. Enough of that. Let's see. So this is all more stuff that he should go outside his house and drop it from higher distances. Gary didn't say that. And supposedly supporting Gary. Yeah, so the Mythbusters fiasco. So here he says that Mythbusters fiasco. It took a lot to get her to admit she didn't know where she got those numbers supporting Gary. There were no such numbers or anything close in that video. Most people won't bother to check. So easy to get away with picking numbers out of the air. Well, you go ahead. Let's see him break the numbers. Let's see him show how the clay didn't crush quite consistently with exactly how the car's crushed. So let's see him show how it didn't turn out that way. When, yeah, that's how it turned out. Alright. I mean, it's just such a pile of shit. So he's not going to explain any of that. It's just a coincidence that the energy just happened to be the end of the can, you know, the part that's impossible to crush on the car, just happened to be exactly twice the distance. And then there's no more can to crush. And somehow with the clay becomes uncompressible all of a sudden for no logical reason. It's like saying, you know, I mean, it doesn't get harder to push something out of a tube, you know, because there's very little left. It just gets hard to get it all into the end where you can push it, but it goes out of the tube just as easy. I mean, to say that, you know, there was plenty of clay left to crush, so there was nothing stopping it from going further and squirting all the clay out. Nothing at all. I mean, I don't know what example to use, but I mean, there's no difference. There's nothing making the clay, when there's a little bit of clay, making the clay harder to squeeze out. It squeezes out just as easy as the first bit of clay. They'll provide no theory defending that. Alright, so, but anyway, I'm getting tired of this, so let's see if there's anything other experiments in this comment. So he's just talking about he's sick and blah, 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 blah. But anyway. So then he responds to the Farley guy. So this is the guy again who he'll actually post images of your family members. Okay, that's what he'll do. He'll go find out who your family is and post their images in an argument as if this has something to do with my family. And this is how he responds to people who do those things, resort to those tactics. I think it would be kind to call him amateur. He makes no effort. What, you know, look, I'm just saying, in hindsight, all this is going to just be pretty silly of you. You're clearly the one who's made no effort to really research the history. Why don't you explain what Leibniz's argument was? Why it was such a great argument? Anyway, after why did nobody believe Leibniz? I mean, Leibniz died as a nobody. Okay, nobody acknowledged his death. I mean, he went from being internationally known as a scientist and being relevant to everybody's conversations about science to being nothing. After Tody made the effort to do what he called a just dicking around experiment, I don't know, did he say that? To hash out snags when he's clearly busy. So other people can be busy, but I can't be. Gary made it clear he did not want to do that experiment when Tody suggested he at least attempts it. And what exact experiment is that? I mean, I want to redo your experiment, except I want to use pendulums. So it would be like the billiard ball experiment, but instead of using a spring, I'll use pendulums. All right, his excuse was that he did it. He would, if he did it, he wants to suspend it from the ceiling. I don't even know what experiment he's talking about. But clearly, yes, if I'm going to make a pendulum, and I want to make it as long as possible, so that's what Galileo did. The whole reason why Galileo made a 20-foot long ramp. Okay, why did he do that? Oh, he did it because it slows the experiment down. He can see what's going. He can really see what happens. That's why he did it. Well, there's the difficulty in that. But where's the difficulty in that? I mean, really. So just imagine if you had a 10-foot drop or an 8-foot drop. And just imagine the arc of the swing you have to have, right? So you have to have some room to do this kind of stuff. I don't have the room. That's why this thing is here. Okay? I'm in a little tiny section of a basement. Anyway. Yes, Gary, we noticed. You just want to talk. No, I want to argue physics. And none of you are capable of doing that. You can't make counter arguments. I can draw levers on a board and explain how they work. You can't do it. You can't make a counter argument. You can't explain whether you believe in conservation of momentum or not. I can ask the question for 2 years and you won't explain what you think about that law. What if everybody else did that? You'd be the first to complain. So again, that's just absolute nonsense. Clearly, throughout history, there were people who did the theoretical part, and there were people who did the frickin' I'll build it. Not a big surprise. Practice what you preach. I don't preach that amateurs should do experiments. So, I am practicing what I preach. I don't think you're capable. I think you're a slob and a pig, and you're stupid. I personally am not. I don't have a machine shop, can't do a lot of different things I'd like to be able to do, can't do it as well as it should be done. Now, even the Mythbusters with a great laboratory couldn't really pull it off. They didn't do it as well as it could have been done. So even when you do have all of those facilities, it's still challenging to do it well. And you're just pretending that your fucking glued dirt is great physics. And it's not. This stupid disbarred jackass. Still defending cracker experiments. Fucking idiot. Anyway, we'll get to him later. Some other time. Yeah, I'm sick of this shit already. Shouldn't bother reading the comments. But just in case somebody makes an argument that they think they're entitled to a response, I would like to provide the response. But yeah, I mean, this is all just raggy crap. Fuck you people. You don't deal with the physics arguments. You just make all these other useless accusations. Alright, so that's no new comments, so that's good. So we'll leave it there then. And such. So, till the next time, and get what you deserve. Yeah, it's a good phrase. I should use it more. Get exactly what you deserve. And such. And so forth. And whatnot. And until the next time. I really am tired. What time is it? Clock. An hour and 33. Well, I guess I can hang around, see if there's one. See if there's any comments at all that would be of interest to me. In some way, I'll indicate that something I said was incorrect, or that something Brozo has done has actually had integrity. Where's smell a cigarette. Oh, there it is. Much better. So Brozo has another comment. I'll just have to find it before I start, where he just goes through all the crappy experiments that were in his first video, well, one of his first videos, I think. The one with the, you know, the porn girls images things he put in throughout the video. That really tacky pile of shit video. And he's still defending those experiments, and they're just so bad. So anyway, we'll get to that sometime in the future. There are other videos for me to mess with, so I'll get to them when I get to them. No, but we'll call this a video. So till the next time and such, and so forth and whatnot.